Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insanely Year 13, as we're preparing to get underway here for our first race of what's intended to be a 13-race season for the IESC GT Championship, a series that goes back all the way to 2019. No, 2018, sorry. A series that goes all the way back to 2018 on Forza Motorsport 7. This will likely be its last season. The last two seasons for ISC were multi-class seasons. You had GT, LMP2, and DPI categories all fighting for a championship. You could get some relatively good turnouts, but there weren't necessarily a whole lot of active on-track fights between drivers within a category. That might change here today, and the big word is might. Everyone is filtered into one category, a GT3 category. We have BMWs, Aston Martins, Porsche, Chevys, Ferraris, Vipers. We have so many different things available here for our run. We also even have a Bentley as well. I completely missed that. We have two Bentleys, one run by Prius Killer, one run by Coca Gamer. But 21 drivers going to take to the circuit for today's event, and this should be a very fascinating run today here. The question, of course, is going to be, how is everything going to shake up on the racetrack? The first round qualifying is already done. In the very first season of IESC GT, we had a similarly large field here at Bathurst. A lot of chaos, especially in the downhill S's here. But in the end, it was an unexpected victory by Coco Gamer, who at that time, he was the one running the series, and he won this first race of the season in the Chevy. He is not running in the Chevrolet this season, though, Coco Gamer in the Bentley. He also does not have nearly as good of a start this season. There are a lot of fast Tourer-level drivers going to be partaking in today's event here, and that could really upend how everything ends up going. We're just waiting to get underway for a race today at the moment. They're still getting the event and the lobby set up. Alright, so anyways, still staying by, waiting to get everything properly set up here. Real quickly, I do want to go ahead and share with you what the intended lineup for the event is going to be. We are anticipating, and this information could be wrong, but we are anticipating the front row will be made up of TNR Horizon and RZM Arsenal, both in Aston Martin GT3s. Scored Buffalo, he won last year's championship in the GT category with the BMW M8. No M8 this time, it is a GTLM number 24 M6. Lucre Speed is the highest of the veterans, winner of the first full season GT championship. He is right now positioned tentatively at 4th. CK the Flying Scot in a Porsche is here in 5th position with Maybe Racing, another BMW, in 6th. Prius Killer in the Bentley 7th. Mexican Badass, another Aston, in 8th. Coca is the highest of the Bentleys in 9th at the moment. Again, all these times are a little bit up for talk. Could be a little bit off for some of this information here. All right, so at the moment we have 21 drivers who will be taking part in today's race. 23 drivers overall in the lobby, but we do have a pace car, celebratory pace car. Typically, these are only utilized in the first lap. Last season, between the two preseason races and the full points-paying season, we only end up having one yellow flag, and that was at the first preseason race at Sonoma. Nothing else beyond that point. So for here, Icky 1975, this will likely be the only time we'll end up seeing him today, but we do want to say thank you very much for your performance and your willingness to show up here in the Audi RS6 pace car for today's event. Waiting to get underway. Real quickly, you can see some real significant spread in the timesheets. One interesting thing to take note of, Tactical Fallout is the only driver to not get a single lap clean, so despite having a time in the 205s, he'll be starting in the back, along with the likes of Boiled Bird 88 and Flag 4199, as just drivers who had such a horrible qualifying time. One driver who really interested me, though, was RZM Valkyrie. Valkyrie set time 2 minutes and 1.3 seconds. That is up there with the likes of Scored Buffalo and RZM Arsenal. However, unlike those two, Valkyrie spent the entirety of qualifying in... Valkyrie spent the entirety of qualifying in the middle of the field, so qualifying is done in ghost mode for this series. However, you will still deal with the fact that the drivers ahead, their cars are translucent. They're not completely transparent, they're translucent. You can kind of see them, kind of not. It's very distracting, very easy to get kind of distracted by that and lose your ideal braking line or point of judgment. The fact that Valkyrie was able to put down a 201.3, a time that's likely going to give him a spot in the front two rows by default, is very, very impressive. But the drivers at the front, Scored Buffalo, who won last season's GT Championship, RZM Arsenal, who won last season's DPI Championship, they will be the ones going at it on the front row. And here's the thing, at Bathurst, there's really no decent overtaking opportunities at this circuit except at the end of the long straightaways. These GT cars, they are extremely wide. It's just not safe to be going side by side through the mountain section in these machines. Bathurst historically is a circuit where it's all about survival and minimizing your mistakes, but being fast enough to capitalize on others. It is probably one of the most aggravating tracks to do well at, because if you're going way too fast, it's very likely you're going to have a mistake. You don't want to push 115% all around the mountain, because the mountain will push back. You need to know when to pull back. You need to know when to be restrained. There is a possibility we could see some chaos near the middle of the field, but here's the other thing to take note of. Even ignoring Tactical Fallout, Flag, and Boiled Bird, we have drivers who are still in the 5-second, 6-second time range, drivers in the 4 seconds. We are anticipating a lot of spread out. Bathurst, in addition, really likes to encourage a lot of spreading throughout the field. The field gets very spread out all over the place very quickly. The circuit just doesn't enable you to follow the car ahead very efficiently. I do think we're likely going to see a lot of spread out, not a whole lot of active on-track fighting throughout today's event. It's not to say it's not going to be interesting, but the strategy is likely going to be more forecasted based on how the actual races go in strategy in pit lane and capitalizing off of the mistakes of people ahead. We could see some interesting stuff in the middle to the rear of the field, but at the front with Scored Buffalo, RZM Arsenal, and by the looks of it, also having where is he again? RZM Valkyrie at the front as well, and TNR Horizon, it could be very, very frustrating. All right. Just getting a little bit of information. We're still waiting to get the proper lobby set up for the event here. Several drivers are still readied up, but the lobby has not been properly reloaded onto the circuit yet. Very interesting cars throughout the list as we look at the various paint schemes that drivers have. TNR Horizon running the number 17 Aston RZM Arsenal running the 29 Red Bull machine. Another Aston scored Buffalo in number 31 BMW, just like what he did last season. Ludicrous Speed in the number 40 Chevrolet. Historically, Ludicrous Speed typically prefers to run the Ford GTs. Ford GT, though, is not included under GT3 regulations. He ended up moving instead to the Chevrolet. There we are, now we're loading up. Maybe racing the number 32, so a direct teammate with Scored Buffalo. Prius Killer in the Bentley, that's number 76. Mexican Badass in the number 24 Aston. Coca Gamer, very visually distinct number 17 Bentley. Defending winner of this race back in the first season, Mr. Sunshine, number 8 Porsche. SRD Shredder, series host, in the number 110 BMW, a throwback to the paint schemes that he ran back in the first season of the series, where he took his first Forza Motorsport victory at Brands Hatch in the wet. Larry B. the G in the Red Bull machine. Does not seem to have a proper number board on it. We'll talk with him later about that. NFL Racer in the number 53 Bentley. TMS Bumdrop in the number 42 Porsche. TBF Matter in the number 84, another Red Bull sponsor. This is an Aston car, though. Flag 4199 is in the number 99 Hertz Porsche, inspired by the Jota Porsche that was running at Le Mans last week. Boiled Bird 88 is in the number 91 Dodge Viper. I can't see what is at. No, he's in the number 3 Dodge Viper, sorry. And then Tactical File, he's going to be representing the number 43 in the Ferrari camp. RZM Valkyrie in the number 10 for the BMWs. RZX U5. U5 was in the fight for the GT Championship, but just could not keep up against Scored Buffalo in the last season's GT title fight. He is in the number 54 Chevrolet, which is the same car he ran that season. JRM Jagged is in the U.S. Army-sponsored Viper. Sadly, due to the angle, I cannot see what the actual number on that car is going to be. I believe he is one of only 2 or 3 Vipers in today's event. So 36 laps will be going underway here. Alright, so it looks like just about everybody is readied up to go here. Yep, and here we are. We're about to take onto the circuit, so we're expecting a 35-lap race here. Icky 1975 is on the front only because he's going to be the starting pace car, but it's RZM Arsenal and Scored Buffalo who will be starting on row 1. And once again, we want to give a thank you to Icky 1975 for doing pace car duties in today's event. Waiting to load onto the circuit here. Alright, here we are. Take 2. Apparently there was some sort of hiccup when it came to setting up the lobbies here. Caused a bit of a problem. So, first start's been aborted. We're just waiting right now on word for when we're going to get going. Again, the back of the field is going to be interesting because Tactical Fallout was not able to get a single clean lap in. Now, that suggests that there's an issue with the car's ability to stay off the walls in the mountain section, but we know from his times that he is faster than at least the 2 people ahead of him, Flagged 41.99 and Boiled Bird 88. It will be interesting to see if Tactical Fallout can make up any ground on the run down to turn 3. Realistically, after you get into turn 3, you can't make another overtake until you're on the run downhill. If these cars were a little bit smaller, you could probably pull it off with a practical Aussie supercar. You could pull it off. It would not be a possible thing to do, though, with the width of many of these GT cars. Alright, loading onto the grid. We'll give a real quick rundown through the field from the front to the rear here while we have the time. Also, heads up for those of you who want to see more racing action on this channel, next week I will not be broadcasting. It is an off week next week for all the series. The Formula 60s series and the AGRL F1 series have both taken a break, are both concluded. This is the only other series I'm broadcasting at the moment, and it is an off week next week as there is going to be Sunshine's 12 Hours Le Mans event going on instead. So, from the back to the front here, Tactical Fallout rounding out the back of the field here in the Ferrari. Just ahead of him is Boiled Bird here in the Viper, in that number 3. Flag 41.99 just ahead of him. He is going to be representing the another vehicle. You see GRM Jag number 20 and the Viper just ahead of him. And then ahead of them is TFB Matter. Matter has made many off and on starts throughout the series, and this number 84 machine today, NFL Racer 4812. I don't know if I mentioned him earlier. He is going to be running a BMW today, that number 53 machine. TMS Bum Drop is right ahead of him. TMS also has made a few hit and miss starts throughout this series, another GT series as well. He's going to be in the middle of the field with Larry B. the G. Larry had a relatively strong season in the GT category last season, but now, because everyone who would be running in a higher category is squeezing a GT, Larry has found himself being filtered down. Series host SRD Shredder doesn't really seem to be able to find out his way around these cars. He is here in the midfield, Mr. Sunshine, who is coming off a victory and a championship in the 60s F1 GP series. He is representing the Porsche Coca Gamer 11, who won this race in the very first season, and across 20 races stayed in the championship fight until the last race. He is starting 12th, 10th is Mexican Badass here in the number 24. He'll round out the top 10. Prius Killer is just ahead of him. He is going to be starting in 9th. Then is going to be CK the Flying Scott, that driven machine. Very beautiful paint scheme in my opinion. Not incredibly bombastic, but very distinctive. His RZX U5. We'd love to see him peel a win or two off this season, but it's going to be really hard. Lucre Speed just ahead of him, representing that gold American-styled U.S. Chevrolet machine. 5th place is going to be Maybe Racing here in this BMW. And now we get to our front 2 rows. 4th is going to be TNR Horizon. He is going to be a very interesting one, a very interesting character to watch in today's event. Then we have just alongside him is going to be RZM Valkyrie. And then the front row, where all the action is anticipated to happen, RZM Arsenal and Scored Buffalo. BMW and Aston Martin right now are at the top of the charts. We're going to be watching Scored Buffalo here as they come to the green flag. We're very interested to see if he's going to be able to do anything. It is a flat 90-degree left-hand corner. Scored Buffalo was given a massive disadvantage in turn 1 here, just due to how the track is laid out. We'll see Icky in his pace car pull off shortly here. Out of the final corner. They accelerate to the start-finish line. The field all doubled up. 21 cars take to the green flag here. Arsenal has a great run, and Buffalo does not. Arsenal actually moves up high to block Buffalo, and Buffalo's already going to lose another spot now to RZM Valkyrie by the looks of it. They're side by side on the run uphill for 2nd and 3rd position. Nose to nose, tail to tail. It's all going to come down to who has the better run into turn 2. The rest of the field is still all relatively well put together. A bit of a twitch from Maybe Racing further back, but you already can see some massive spreads in the grid. Buffalo has the inside. There's a Chevrolet that's gone sideways. That would be Ludicrous Speed. He's saved the car, but he's going to cause a massive backup in the middle of the field. It looks like everyone's going to get around. Oh, and Scored Buffalo gets turned right into the wall. He keeps it from going all the way around, but now TNR Horizon gets into Valkyrie. Valkyrie is all sideways. Ludicrous Speed has now moved up to 3rd despite his accident, and Valkyrie falls back to the 4th position. Very unexpected, very chaotic start here, and at the front, RZM Arsenal had a better run to turn 1, and he has the lead and likely could walk off with this race win now. Ludicrous Speed has gotten the shot. Oh my goodness, a gigantic twitch by RZM Valkyrie and that Aston Martin as they come to the top of the hill, and now this is where everything gets really, really chaotic here. We look at the back of his car at the field as it goes down these downhill S's incredibly tight. You bounce off a wall and it can derail your entire day. It looks like most of the field is still together. No, as I take that back, we have had an instant near the back of the grid. That was too far back. I did not want to see the pace car game. Boiled Bird seems to have had an instant in the back along with GRM Jagged and Flag. CK the Flying Scott has fallen back as well. And Tactical Fallout, who started last place, has already made his way up to 15th. He's fighting with TMS Bump Drop to try and hold this position on the run down to the high-speed kink here. And then the chicane. You can see Larry B the G and TFB Matter in a fight of their own for 13th position, side by side between a Ferrari, and then another Ferrari is now trying to make moves out of it. Neck and neck for 13th, but Matter will slide over in front of Larry. Larry touches the outside grass. He's now going to lose a spot to Tactical Fallout, and despite having a horrible qualifying run, Tactical Fallout has made his way from 21st position to 15th in the span of a single lap. It's some incredible stuff we're seeing here near the absolute rear of the field. Now, here's some other things to keep eye on, though. Ludicrous Speed has already fallen back to the 4th position, and TNR Horizon wants to make something against that Chevrolet. The Chevrolet, though, of Ludicrous Speed is fighting with RZ and Valkyrie, who got by him earlier. Valkyrie runs wide. He just barely taps that outside wall in turn 2. Ludicrous comes around the outside. Not a great idea going into turn 3. They both go into the wall just a bit. 3rd, 4th, and 5th all on top of each other as they now come uphill. This section of the circuit is all predicated on just staying off the track. You can't really make any good, consistent overtakes throughout this section, and already Horizon is falling off the back of these two pretty significantly. Oh, Horizon hit the wall again. SRD Shredder has made his way up into 11th at this stage in the race. Coming downhill, you can see Ludicrous Speed just barely touches the grass, but the 3rd and 4th have absolutely pulled away from Horizon. It may be a case that Horizon has a car that's only good in a straight line and is just moderately incompetent in the mountain section compared to his competition. At the front, though, things could start getting interesting very quickly, because you look at the front of the field, RZM Arsenal has scored Buffalo right behind him. The two drivers who started at the front are still the drivers at the front of this grid, and although Arsenal lost positions right at the initial race start, he is up here in 2nd now and putting pressure on Arsenal. Big slide from Arsenal going through the grass, but these cars are so wide, you're not going to be able to capitalize off of a small mistake like that. The car ahead just takes up too much space. You're not going to be able to do anything out of it. Arsenal has set the fastest first lap, obviously, but at the first proper full-speed racing lap, who's had the fastest lap thus far? All right, coming in at turn 1. Buffalo still runs right behind Arsenal. These two are nearly 4 seconds ahead of the fight from 3rd. RZ and Valkyrie also has pulled away from Ludicrous Speed. And yes, it does seem like Horizon closed up a bunch of this gap in the straightaways. He's now within 1/3 of a second of that golden Chevrolet of Ludicrous Speed. Does he make a move? He runs right behind as they come into turn 2. He is not going to make the dive. Ludicrous Speed holds station for now, and this is where we're likely to see Horizon start falling off in pace here. Scored Buffalo has likewise just fallen a little bit off of RZM Arsenal going through the mountain. Doesn't want to be so close to Arsenal that if Arsenal does make a mistake, he gets caught up in their mess. Just a small graze on the wall, and Buffalo really sideways as it comes to the very top of the mountain. Now they dive downhill once again. Mr. Sunshine has cracked his way into the top 10 positions. And it looks like Tactical Fallout, something has gone wrong with his machine, because he has fallen back to 18th position at this stage in the race. Bumper to bumper as they come downhill. Draft will come into play here. They get just enough speed for the draft to come into play, but it looks like Arsenal has a better top end than scored Buffalo right now. And Bathurst, in many ways, although a lot of it could be considered a natural circuit, this race is very similar to a traditional street course. Straight line speed is really the primary thing you need for overtaking. You can see that Buffalo gets these amazing runs under braking and through corners. He'll even go off the ideal line and he'll get these great runs. But Arsenal has a really wide car, so you can't really get side by side efficiently with them without compromising some of the good speed that you carry through the corners. And then in addition, Arsenal has just enough speed in a straight line. He can utilize that to deny Buffalo a run into the corner. This is what sets up for a good car that can get you wins on street circuits or here at Bathurst. Not necessarily the fastest car of all, but a car that is competent enough that you're not going to hit the wall, and a car that is not, under any circumstance, going to be challenged going into a braking zone. You can let the person behind be as close to the rear bumper as they want, but as long as they don't mess up and knock you into a wall under braking, you'll be fine. And these two have continued to slowly open the gap on RZM Valkyrie. Ludicrous Speed has lost position to TNR Horizon. So, oh, and there's been an instant farther back. I think that was Prius Killer who smacked the wall coming out of turn number 2. Coco Gamer has moved by him. Coco Gamer, who is in real life does racing in the Formula 1600 series across the United States, showing off some of his skill here at Bathurst, at a circuit that he's won at before. Maybe Racing putting a little bit of pressure on Prius here, and Mr. Sunshine is not too far behind that fight as well. Another fight of note. Check this out here. Larry B. Legee, Tactical Fallout, NFL Racer. All these drivers right on top of each other outside of the top 12 spots on the track. Larry really sideways, getting into the S's. Ludicrous Speed has gotten back by Horizon, apparently, going through the mountain section. So Ludicrous is back in the fourth, and RZM Valkyrie has fallen off from Scored Buffalo. So while we were focused in the midfield, it would appear that Valkyrie has made a mistake and has given Scored Buffalo the lead. And while it seemed like Valkyrie had everything necessary, and Arsenal also had everything necessary to properly mount the challenge, it has Scored Buffalo at the front. Valkyrie runs second, and he's trying to pull on Arsenal right now. Arsenal had been right there. He'd been leading over Buffalo, but something has gone wrong, and he has fallen behind now. TFB Matter has lagged out of the event at this stage in the race. Frustrating to see that sort of thing has happened. We're going to reach out to him and see if he'd be willing to talk to us about what it was like out there. On our fifth lap of a 35-lap race. Ludicrous Speed coming around the outside of TNR Horizon, apparently, just in the mountain section. Again, I said you couldn't make overtakes in the mountain section, and Ludicrous Speed has proved me wrong. He is very competent in that Chevrolet. Big slide, though, but he seems to be very competent in the Chevrolet. And Horizon, in a car that is really not comfortable at all, he was able to make a nice smooth overtake in the fifth turn here. Problem, though, is that Horizon is going to come steaming back in the straightaways. And the longer these two fight, the farther away the podium positions get. And the closer that Viper in sixth becomes as well. Sixth place, RZX U5, trying to make something happen. Horizon should have a great run in the straightaway here. This is the highest active fight on the track. But then you have this here, Coco Gamer. He's gotten by maybe Racing, but has lost touch with everyone ahead. He's leading this little pack of this little group of cars from about 7th all the way to 10th. They're all just right on top of each other. Not really in a position to make moves, but if any of them make a mistake, you can see a potential lunge here. And there's Coco's mistake, and here comes Maybe's chance to maybe go for a move. Caps closed down, a little bit of a bump going into the braking zone. Coca gets pushed wide. This also has backed both of them up, and now Prius Killer is up into the fray as well. He can watch this fight for 7th continue to play out. Out of turn 1, and now the run uphill. Coca Gamer extremely wide, trying to utilize as much of the circuit as he can. It looks like Coca has a car that has a great straight line speed, and maybe Racing actually is coming into the clutches of Prius Killer down the straight. Maybe moves aside just a little bit to deny Prius the inside line. Again, these GT cars, particularly the Acid and the BMWs, they are so large and they are so wide that you can just do a very small move and it will deny an entire lane of the track to the person ahead. Oh, maybe bounces off of the wall there, going into turn number 3. Prius Killer trying to stay ahead of Sunshine. He's watching these two fight, but he does not seem to be able to do anything to this duo at the moment. Sunshine's closed in the Porsche, and as they come to the very top of the hill, Sunshine looking to the inside, gets a little bit into his rear as they start going downhill, and Maybe Racing has gone off. Maybe Racing has gone off the circuit, falling all the way back to the 10th position. These cameras are not very good, I hate to say it. But Maybe Racing hitting the wall, he's now fallen back to 10th. This will move Mr. Sunshine now up into the 9th spot. Things seem to be going sideways for him now. And Coco Gamer gets a chance to pull away from Prius just a bit. Top three stay strung out the way they have been. Horizon and Ludicrous Speed fighting for 4th and 5th, but it does look like Horizon has the net advantage over this Chevrolet as long as Horizon doesn't make any significant mistakes in the mountain section. But RZX U5, I said he was in the Dodge earlier and he's in Chevy, he is making ground on them. The top 6 are basically in a zip code of their own here. So everyone's spread out significantly at this stage in the event. Although Ludicrous Speed is trying to close back in on TNR Horizon here through the mountain. Oh, Horizon big into the wall there. He's keeping it on the track for now, but Horizon pushing so hard, he is giving himself a lot of undue pressure. And it's letting Ludicrous Speed close in through the mountain. You could hear the Chevrolet just barely brushing the wall as it went downhill, but it was not enough to actually make a lunge. Someone's gotten to the tires there. But now we come onto the straight, and this is where Horizon has a significant advantage in straight line speed. Farther back on the circuit, Coco Gamer trying to keep Prius Killer and Mr. Sunshine behind him in this three-way fight for 7th. A pair of Bentleys keeping a Porsche behind. And that Bentley of Coca seems to have the most issues as they go through that high-speed chicane at the bottom of the hill. Or the I shouldn't even say hill, it's really, I should say the bottom of the mountain. Most of the other fights seem to... Oh, Coca slaps the wall just a bit. This is Prius Killer's chance. Track's not quite wide enough to make a smooth overtake through here. But if Coca hits the wall again like that, Prius will be right there on top of him. Mr. Sunshine now running his Porsche against the wall. So these two will have a few moments by themselves. Coca really wide. Prius a little bit tighter than he needs to be. But again, these Bentleys are so wide that even that small difference of tightness and narrowness really doesn't come into play through the mountain section. It looks to me like Prius has a car that's a lot more stable. I think Coca is faster, but he seems to be a lot more prone to making mistakes. What the heck? Is our leader already putting someone a lap down? Yeah, it would appear that Boiled Bird will be the first driver to go a lap down here today. Not quite 10 laps through the event. We're starting lap 9 now. You just have to remember, take one away from both the lap counter and the current lap up there, because we do have a pace lap that doesn't really count. Again, we watch this fight for 7th here. Mr. Sunshine continues to hang out. He's in the periphery, but it does not look like he's close enough to actively make anything of it. Our top two drivers, Scored Buffalo and RZ and Valkyrie, completely in a zone of their own. And Valkyrie is slowly closing down on Scored Buffalo, but at the rate he's closing, even if he catches Buffalo, I don't have confidence that there's enough difference in their pace to make an overtake happen. And fundamentally, that is what all overtakes are. All overtakes are just a matter of a faster car in the moment getting by a slower car in the moment. May not necessarily be a case of someone being way faster, way slower over the course of a race. But there needs to be a significant enough difference that at the moment of overtake, the guy behind is way faster than the guy in front. There are many ways to do it. Around Bathurst, though, with how tight this circuit is, I don't know how many of them are going to actually be possible and reasonable. Right on board with Prius Killer. You can see Coca getting really sideways as they come up the mountain. Coca Gamer seems to have a vehicle that's outrageously nimble in a straight line. Prius just so much more smooth, so much more consistent. Every time I watch that green Bentley, it seems all over the place. Prius, even when he makes a mistake, the consequences seem to be way less. He seems to have a lot more control over himself. A wild card could end up being Mr. Sunshine. If Prius Killer catches Coca but can't get by him because of how wide these cars are, Sunshine in the Porsche could make a lunge for a position. So here's another fight that might develop. RZM Arsenal might be falling into the clutches of TNR Horizon. Horizon, who is no longer fighting with ludicrous speed for this position, can put his head down and be a lot more stable and a lot more smooth through the mountain section. He's a lot more comfortable with the car. He's already got a good 10 laps under him. So he can avoid making the mistakes that he was making earlier. And with that in mind, he's reducing the gap between his absolute best parts and absolute worst parts on the circuit. And that's how you improve your overall lap time. In racing, typically, once you start getting to the level that GT cars have been at since about the 80s, what matters more is having good handling and good cornering. Straight line speed doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot when it comes to driver versus driver going solo. As I said, though, I just watched Horizon slap the wall at least twice. We may have just had a disconnect. TMS Bum Drop has apparently dropped out of the event. So we're going to try and reach out to TMS Bum Drop and see if he'd be willing to talk with us here. So here's another fight. Baby Racing is starting to recover from his instant earlier. He has caught Mr. Sunshine, putting pressure on the Porsche. Dives to the inside under braking here in the chicane, but cannot make it stick. Outside, it's a little bit too smooth of a move for the Porsche, especially considering that the following corner, he also will have the advantage. But Maybe Racing has caught Sunshine for 9th. And Mexican Badass runs in 11th. He would love to see one of these two have a mistake big enough to promote him into the top 10 positions here. Big run by Maybe Racing. He's going to come around the outside of the Porsche. So Sunshine should have the advantage in the corner, but Maybe Racing moves over, gives Sunshine a bit of a tap. But yeah, he cannot make the move stick. These cars are just too wide, too heavy. You can't be flying side by side through turn 2 without issue. Someone has to back out. In this case, it was Maybe. He's saying, hey, look, I'll live to fight for another corner. Sunshine has lost touch with that fight between Prius Killer and Coca Gamer for 7th up ahead. Mexican Badass kind of having a little bit of trouble keeping up with this duo on the run uphill here. onto the straight once again. It looks like this time around, Sunshine has put together good enough lap that's let him stretch out the gap a bit. And while Maybe Racing has a car that can close in a straight line, I don't think he's going to be closing enough to properly put pressure on Sunshine by the time they get back to the mountain section. So this BMW is about halfway through their fuel tank, and real quickly, let's go ahead and look through the field. Can I get an idea where everyone is when it comes to their fuel loads? Scored Buffalo, who's leading by a 5-second gap, has gone through about half of his tank, so we should anticipate him to pit around lap 25. RZM Valkyrie, another BMW, similar circumstances. RZM Arsenal, he has gone through 47%, so similar numbers for him. TNR Horizon, who is in the 4th position, 45%, so he's actually gone through a little bit more fuel than the drivers ahead. Ludicrous Speed and RZX both have a small advantage because they are both running Chevrolets. They still have a little bit more than 50% left. Then you get down to Coco Gamer and Prius, a pair of Bentleys in the 50s as well. Mr. Sunshine, who is in 9th position right now, 51%. Maybe Racing, we're anticipating he'll be about 47%. Mexican Badass going to be in a similar zone. We anticipate 47%. CK the Flying Scott, he's in a fight with SRD Shredder. 52% for CK. For Shredder, it will be a 44%. So Shredder has gone through an excessive amount of fuel compared to just about everyone else. Big gap back until you get to NFL Racer. He's gone through 48%. Larry B. the G, who is putting pressure on him, he's gone through 46% of his fuel tank. Tactical Fallout, who made a lot of spots up in the start, but has lost nearly all of them since. He has made 45. He has gone through 55% of his fuel tank. GRM Jagged, who has lost touch with the rest of the field completely at 50% fuel. Flag is the next driver. He is in 18th right now. We may have lost somebody here. CK the Flying Scott has just dropped out of the event. So 3 DNFs before we get to the end of lap 14. Gonna try and reach out to CK here, see what they have to say about their run. And Flag is going to be the next driver who will go a lap down at the rate that this event is going here. Not looking good for Flag. He's been bouncing off the walls a lot today. So once again, we look at this fight for 9th and 10th between Maybe Racing and Mr. Sunshine. We know that Maybe Racing is faster than Sunshine. He started ahead of him. He was ahead of him until he had an incident. He's just trying to recover. But Mr. Sunshine has a significant advantage. His car seems to be smoother through the corners. Smooth enough that although Maybe can close in a straight line, Sunshine can open the gap back up significantly in the twisties. Looks like this time Sunshine may have had a bad entry into the S's. As long as Maybe he can keep his car from hitting any walls on the run down, he might have a shot on the Porsche going into the chicane. Both guys get really slideways, and Mexican Badass has fallen 3 seconds out of this fight. So this is a fight for 10th, and we are not going to see any changes beyond 9th and 10th, it looks like here. Maybe closing in a straight line on Sunshine. He goes to the inside, heavy under braking. He takes the inside line, touches the inside grass, and that is enough to give Sunshine the run that he needs to power out without issue. And here comes Sunshine into the pits. This is where Maybe's Racing best chance is. On the in and out lap, the two of them should be running in cleaner traffic, and that should change everything. So the only drivers to make stops are Mexican Badass and Mr. Sunshine by the looks of it. Everyone else stays on circuit for now, but they will be our first drivers to stop in today's event. This little fight for 7th has really just turned to a glorified stalking match. It seems like as this race has gone on, Coco Gamer has come to grips with the circuit. He's a lot more comfortable, a lot smoother now. And with that in mind, he is now starting to open the gap slowly on Prius. He's reducing and minimizing his mistakes, and that's allowing him to pull away from Prius. As I say that, Coco's made a bit of a hiccup coming down into the downhill S's, but even still, the gap does not close in enough for your driver in 8th to put any pressure on Coca. So while a win here at Bathurst, like it was in the first season of the IESC GT season, that is not going to happen. It does look like Coca has put up a great performance, considering that for the last 2 years, actually closer to 3 years, he has made almost no starts in Forza. I think he's made 2 starts last season in the multi-class. I've seen him make about 4 starts in NASCAR events and about 2 or 3 in IndyCar events, and that would be about it. He has been taking a very, very selective, very minimalistic schedule over the last few seasons, but he's showing he absolutely still has it, and if he showed up on a consistent week in, week out basis, he really could make a great name for himself. So Mr. Sunshine, when he came onto the track, he is all by himself, but you can see NFL Racer and Larry B the G ahead of him fighting. If he catches this duo of NFL Racer and Larry B, and they hold him up by a significant amount, it is going to compromise Sunshine's plan to make a stop. Now, what you're seeing in, I believe that is NFL Racer. No, that was Larry. Larry has gone ahead and made his stop now. So they're stopping a little bit early. Oh, we may have an instant on the circuit here. Flag 4199 has gone completely off in the sand trap at the top of the hill. He's getting underway now, but it seems like it has been nothing but a bad run for him today around Bathurst. He's lost the rear wing on that car. And this is going to be bad news for Maybe Racing, because Maybe, who is trying to fight to get ahead of Mr. Sunshine, he's going to catch this Porsche in a really bad location. Unless he can blitz by him in a straight line, Maybe might be compromised by traffic here and might let Sunshine hold on to his position. Again, Sunshine has pitted earlier than Maybe here, and Sunshine is in moderately clean air in comparison. Yeah, that Porsche doesn't seem to have any control over the rear of the car. It seems like the nose is extremely twitchy in the rear. Okay, he's going to pull aside and let Maybe Racing go on the dive into the final corner. So that will help out Maybe in his fight with Sunshine. Sunshine, though, has been in clean air this entire time. He is closing on an NFL Racer. He needs this BMW ahead to make a stop sooner rather than later. Mind you, NFL Racer's in a final zone against Larry B the G. Larry is back in 15th in completely clean air, and so is NFL Racer. So between Racer and Larry B, it's just going to come down to who's better in clean air at the moment as they come around the circuit, going down into turn 1 here. And back uphill. And we have a caution, apparently. The field is bunching up. We have a caution. Very unexpected. We don't typically see yellow flags in the IESC series, so this is very unusual. This also has a massive knock-on effect because pit road, when it finally opens, we could see a lot of drivers making stops and people who've already made their first stops will vault way ahead of the grid. All the time that's been lost will be eradicated. Now, drivers like Mr. Sunshine and Larry B, who made their stops already, they're going to be a lot of positions behind, but they have an overall time advantage. And if the drivers that they were fighting go ahead and pit, they're going to be ahead of him by roughly a full pit stop. And that's not going to be a gap that will likely close back up. If those guys they're fighting don't pit, then all they have to do is just avoid a mistake, and they'll have an even bigger advantage potentially. And for Scored Buffalo, RZM Valkyrie, RZM Arsenal, TNR Horizon, this is the best chance they have at fighting with Scored Buffalo at the front here in that BMW machine, running downhill. Most of the field, about a bit more than half of the field, we have seen our top 10 have all closed up already on the back straight. Here comes NFL Racer in 11th, catching up, as does Mr. Sunshine. We did not see what's happened to bring out this yellow flag. Mexican Badass is up to the rear of the field as well. Here comes Tactical Fallout, Larry B, and GRM Jagged. They are way off the back of the grid. It is going to be a long time before everyone's gathered up. So we're on lap 17 now. We are likely going to see the green flag on lap 19. So as 18 clocks over into 19, we are anticipating that will be when the green flag falls. So about halfway through this event, everyone who has already made a stop should have a significant advantage. And these drivers, the fastest ones on track all day, Arsenal, Valkyrie, Buffalo, may have something that will harm them going forward, because at least two drivers, Larry B the G and Mr. Sunshine, will be ahead of them once these drivers make their stops. Unless, and this is a big if, unless these drivers stay out on the restart and just go until their fuel is empty. Look at their fuel numbers right now. 32% for Scored Buffalo with a 51% wear on the right front tire. RZM Valkyrie, 50 and 54 on the front tires, 28% left in his car. RZM Arsenal, who is in third, 28% is 52 and 55%. So, yeah, you could definitely tell everyone at the front will have to pit relatively soon. They have gone through nearly 3/4 of their fuel tank. Even if we go green, they will have to pit in about 4 laps to make it to the end here. They aren't going to be able to make it with no yellow flag. Excuse me, they aren't going to be able to make it with no pit stops today. So the highest of the drivers who will be benefited out of this is Mr. Sunshine, who is buried back in the 12th position. He has 87% fuel. He does not have to worry about pitting again to the end of the race. The other driver is in 15th position. I said 15th position. Larry B the G, who had pitted 1 lap later than Sunshine, he's at 90% fuel. Those two drivers do not have to worry about fuel to the end of this race. There may be 1 or 2 other people near the back of the grid that I may have missed, but that's what we're looking at right now. The field, with the exception of our last place driver, Boiled Bird, is all gathered up. Boiled Bird is still more than a minute behind. I do not know if they're going to wait for Bird to catch the rear of the grid to get the green flag going or not. Because if we have to wait, then we may not go green until lap 20 on that little ticker up there, which will be lap 19 overall. He is closing, but it's going to take a long time. Dramora, I'm broadcasting right now. Would you be able to step out for a bit? I'll be talking to you a little bit later in the Group B event, but I'm doing this solo. Yeah. So on the restarts, everyone should be in single file formation. That will give Scored Buffalo an advantage, something he did not have on the initial start here. Apparently Flag is also still a lap down at this stage in the event. I'm not sure what's going on there. But all these laps that pass, they just help the drivers who have already pitted more and more, because they will not have to worry. Okay, here we are. Now we see our leaders beginning to make stops. Icky pulls off, so we're going to go green flag here. RZM Valkyrie is going to stay out on track. but almost everyone else is going to pit. This is really going to dice up the field here, because as we go green, RZ and Valkyrie and Maybe Racing now have first and second. There's a big gap between them, and Mr. Sunshine is now up into the third spot overall. They are going to be way ahead of some of the fastest drivers on track. Mr. Sunshine might have pulled off a strategy masterclass. Larry B. the G is in fifth right now, and it could be a similar situation for him. As long as these two drivers don't get involved in any incidents, they may have the pace to pull off a victory over the guys who have dominated most of this event here. RZ and Valkyrie leads. For Valkyrie, he needs to open up as big of a gap as he possibly can, because he needs to outrun everyone on track as much as he possibly can, so when he pits and comes back on track, he doesn't end up in the middle of the field or behind the field. That would be the worst case scenario for him. Mr. Sunshine is putting Maybe Racing under a lot of pressure right now. But Maybe has to pit, Sunshine does not. So for Sunshine, he just needs to wait until that BMW ahead makes a stop. The question is going to be when, oh, Maybe's gotten to the grass there at the top of the hill. Now they start heading back down. Where is Maybe when it comes to his fuel? He has 23% left. Mexican has just hit the wall farther back. And that's going to bring Larry B. the G up into the fight for those positions. And for Larry, he's in a little bit more of a problematic position than Sunshine. He wants to get by Mexican as fast as he can, because if he can fight with Larry, that could end up being a fight for the overall win. But more importantly, when the drivers who have already pitted, primarily scored Buffalo, start coming up, Larry is going to be the first one they're going to come up against and will have to be fighting. The question is there going to be enough time for those leaders to catch this duo? And when there are the three drivers in the top 5 who have not yet pitted, when are they going to make their stop? This has definitely put an interesting twist on this event. No one in the top 5 stops yet. RZM Arsenal has actually ended up ahead of Scored Buffalo on the run out of pit lane. So Arsenal is now ahead of Scored Buffalo, but the top 6 drivers have yet to make their first and pretty much only stop of the event. Into the final corner, Arsenal and Buffalo have pulled away from the rest of the field. These two were fighting earlier, and Arsenal had made a mistake and let Scored Buffalo take the lead and walk off with a massive margin. Will Arsenal make another mistake like that again? That is the question. And here in this fight that also could be for the win, the longer Maybe Racing holds up Mr. Sunshine, the more and more likely it is that Sunshine might not be able to walk out of here with a win. Maybe Racing is the cork on the bottle, and he's really compromising this run. The other factor to consider, though, is that you have RZM Valkyrie running all by himself in clean air right now. So we have 3 different races that all could turn out to the win, going in different ways. Our leader, who is way faster than everyone else, Larry B. the G, has finally dispatched Mexican Badass. So Larry now has nothing to worry about. The driver he is fighting on the track right ahead of him, Mr. Sunshine, might be the fight for the win. So we have our overall official leader right now, RZM Valkyrie, just trying to run as fast as he can to make up for the fact that he's going to have to make a stop very late. Then you have Mr. Sunshine and Larry B. the G fight, and Larry's falling back behind Mexican Badass now, but Larry B. the G and Mr. Sunshine are trying to get around Maybe Racing as quickly as they can so they can fight for the win. And then you have this fight here between Arsenal and Scored Buffalo. They believe they are going to inherit the lead once the drivers ahead make their stop. They are also fighting for overall position. So we have 3 different potential groups of drivers who could win. We're looking at 5 different people fighting for the victory here at Bathurst at Mount Panorama. So our leader does not make a stop this lap around. I'm looking at it again. It looks like no one in the top 5 is making a stop this circuit by. So we go another lap, and this helps out the duo of Arsenal and Buffalo even more. And it also helps out your overall leader, RZM Valkyrie, even more as well, because Valkyrie gets to continue to extend his lead and run in completely clean air, and then Arsenal and Buffalo also are running in moderately clean air, and they don't have to worry about catching traffic yet. And I take that back. JRM Jagged did pit, so our 6th place driver has finally made a stop. He's going to drop way back, probably to the very back of the field here. It's not even going to be close. This could be bad news for our current leader, RZM Valkyrie. Is Valkyrie going to be able to open up enough of a gap that he'll be ahead of this big group and can be fighting for the actual win, or let alone the win? He might only be fighting for a podium position right now. And then there's still this. When is Maybe Racing going to make his stop? Mr. Sunshine has actually fallen off from Maybe Racing a bit. This kind of works out in Sunshine's favor because he's not going to be directly infected by Maybe Racing, but it also speaks badly to the fact that Sunshine may not have the pace necessarily to pull away from the drivers who have been dominating all race long. Larry B the G has had an accident. He has actually fallen off from Mexican Badass. He's going to be caught by Buffalo and Arsenal shortly here. And Scored Buffalo has gotten by Arsenal, so I'm trying. Oh, well, it's not official yet. They're side by side in the S's. That's not a good idea, boys. You can't be going side by side or you're going to cause an accident. Buffalo is by Arsenal now, though. But the more and more these two drivers fight, the more and more of a benefit it gives Larry B the G, the big benefit it gives to Mr. Sunshine, and it also will give a bit of a help to our current leader, RZM Valkyrie. We still do not know when Valkyrie is going to make his stop. He's making it now. Valkyrie is making his stop now. Maybe Racing will likely inherit the race lead. Arsenal, Buffalo continuing to scrap it out on the run downhill. Side by side, going into the chicane. Buffalo keeps Arsenal behind him just by a smallest amount. These two are absolutely thrashing it. And the more they keep fighting, the more the wind might be slipping away from their fingers. Here they come, diving into the corner. And that driver ahead of them, Larry B the G, that will be a fight for position. There's no off strategy to it. These drivers will have to pass Larry B on there. These two are grinding on each other like it is a Friday night strip club as they go into turn one. Out of turn one and now up the hill. Scored Buffalo has the advantage, but I think RZM Arsenal has a car that's faster in a straight line. As they run uphill, they drag on each other once again. They are slamming into each other here. And RZM Valkyrie has made his stop. And RZM Valkyrie, not only did he make his stop, he is now ahead of this duo. RZM Valkyrie might steal the win from the likes of Arsenal and Buffalo. And the real question is going to be Mr. Sunshine, because Sunshine might have enough of a gap. There's no guarantee, but he might be able to pull out here with the win. And the other thing is that Valkyrie has already gotten by Larry B the G. So Larry is not going to be a hold-up for Valkyrie anymore. It has gone from being a fight between Arsenal and Buffalo to a fight between Valkyrie and the massive gap that Sunshine has accrued by pitting early. This could be the biggest 180 IQ big brain moment we have seen in the IESC season. Larry is falling off. Arsenal has gotten back ahead and scored Buffalo for now. But you can see that Buffalo is way smoother and way more consistent in the S's. Still, there are drivers up at the front who are in position to compromise this fight, because when they pit, they could end up having a knock-on effect on this fight. TNR Horizon, Coco Gamer, Lucas Speed, they have all fallen off from this fight. They are not in contention for the win right now. I'm seeing someone at the front pull off. I'm guessing that is going to be our leader. So yes, Maybe Racing is pitting, and Sunshine inherits the race lead. So now for Mr. Sunshine, the rule is simple. Don't make any mistakes and hope that the gap you have over Valkyrie is big enough they can't run you down. Prius Killer has had an accident at the bottom of the hill. Trying to see what happened to him. Looks like he's already gotten back underway. Mr. Sunshine, in first, has a roughly 17-second lead over RZM Valkyrie. Valkyrie needs to keep Arsenal and Scored Buffalo behind. And that right now seems like it's an easy affair. Alright, Larry B has already been dispatched by Arsenal and Buffalo. Oh, Arsenal slaps the wall! And now Buffalo's coming! There comes Buffalo! You can't make it overtaking the mountain like this, boys! But they're going for it anyway! There's gonna be a possible accident! They're into the wall! And Arsenal's into the wall! He's hit the inside wall! And Arsenal is gonna be out of contention for this race win! RCX very nearly runs into Arsenal! I don't know what Arsenal was doing, sliding across the track like a maniac like that! But Arsenal takes himself out of any fight for the win. He now falls behind, Maybe Racing for a position. So now, RZ and Valkyrie and Scored Buffalo have a 3-second gap between them at this stage in the event. RZ and Valkyrie has to try and run down Mr. Sunshine between now and the race end. This is Mexican Badass. He is second at the moment. Okay, so I was wrong. Mexican Badass has also already made a stop today. So I was wrong. Badass does not have to make another stop. Badass is fighting to hold on to second to the end of this race. So 3 drivers were going for this strategy. Sunshine, Badass, and Larry B. I did not catch Badass making the stop, but he has. So Valkyrie is in third right now and has to try and run down first and second position. This could end up being a very interesting run because we still got about 13 laps left in the event. I don't know how much faster than Sunshine Valkyrie is. Sunshine's going to be aided by the fact that it's mostly clean track. He should only have to deal with 1 lapped car between now and the end of this race. Larry B has really moved up. Larry was not even fighting for a top 10 position, but although he is losing a bit of time now, this strat has worked out great for him. He is in 6th, and if he can just stem the bleeding a bit, he could still walk out of here with potentially a top 10 finish. So a yellow flag here in the middle of this race really shakes up the event here. And if we stay green to the end, I think we could have a very interesting fight for, if not second, possibly the actual race win. That is Boiled Bird, who is going to be going another lap down here very shortly to Mr. Sunshine. And this is the worst thing that Sunshine wants to deal with. He does not want to have to deal with lap traffic. The good news is that there's only 1 other lapped car on track right now, and that guy is already back in the mountain section, so it's unlikely he's going to catch him. But Sunshine will have to figure out a way by Boiled Bird and to get by him nice and smoothly without issue here. Well, that's about as smooth as you're going to get. So now he just has to hope that Boiled Bird ends up causing issues for your 3rd place driver, RZM Valkyrie. We're changing the ticker at the top to time behind leader, so you get an idea of where Mr. Sunshine is against RZM Valkyrie. Valkyrie is in clean air right now, but he's going to have to overtake Mexican Badass, and then he's also going to have to overtake a lapped car before he can even make anything happen to Mr. Sunshine for this race win. Looking at a gap of about 9 seconds and closing. So yes, Valkyrie absolutely has the pace. If he continues to close by about a second to lap on the leaders, he would catch Sunshine with about 2 to go, but that would be under the impression that he doesn't have to make any overtakes. Making overtakes at Bathurst is incredibly difficult. So Valkyrie, who was really not in direct consideration for fighting for the overall win here, it looked like a podium was in the cards, but it did not look like an overall win was going to come into play. Now he is it. Alright, yeah, we'll clip that and we'll send that into officials later. I don't know if that was Valkyrie trying to avoid Boiled Bird having an accident or what, because I could not see Boiled Bird, but we definitely saw Valkyrie cut the circuit there. If that happens again, we'll definitely keep an eye on it. And without a doubt, I'm sure that he's gained some time out of that. The gap's already down to about 8.7, about 7.5 seconds now. Fight for 6, meanwhile. U5 AMVP versus Larry B the G. Chevrolet versus Ferrari here. Larry right now, he was one of the drivers that stopped before the yellow flag, so right now he's just trying to stem the bleeding, trying to just hold on to whatever positions he could. Again, Larry's actual pace was outside of the top 10. And it looks like U5, there's nothing that Larry can do to fight back against him. easy run in and out of the corners. For Larry, he just needs the clock to run out as quickly as he can. He needs to put up the best defense he can, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think Larry has a car under him that can really put up a strong defense against these charging drivers behind. Next driver's catch is going to be RZM Arsenal. Arsenal is going to be absolutely fuming. He was fighting way too hard with fighting way too hard with Scored Buffalo, had an accident at the top of the hill, and while he's able to continue going, because again, this series does not run sim damage, it's only fuel and tire damage, it's put him into this bad position. He has dropped all the way to 8th when a possible win could have been in the cards for him. A podium was basically guaranteed for him, and now seems to be all gone. He'll get by Boiled Bird without issue here. Also, granted to Maybe Racing. Maybe Racing did not benefit off of the pit stop strat, but he's put on a great run right before and right after this yellow flag comes out. Maybe Racing legitimately is fighting for 9th, where he has been. A lot of other drivers who have fighting near the front, like Ludicrous Speed, like Coco Gamer, they have been shuffled out of the top 10 positions. Maybe Racing has not, so he is putting on a relatively strong showing right now. Larry's hit the wall right in front of Arsenal. That should be enough. So yeah, everything's gone apart for Larry. It looks like that strat's not going to work if you just don't have a car you can properly control around here. And that was in the mountain section. Larry had lost so much speed that even in that super tight downhill S's mountain section, Arsenal just blitzed him. Maybe Racing will be the next person who will be launching an attack against him here. Here's the fight for 2nd position. It's not started yet, but it is beginning to heat up. Valkyrie can see Mexican Badass. We know he's going to catch Mexican Badass before this race is over. The question is going to be, how much of a fight is Mexican Badass going to put against RZM Valkyrie? If he just rolls aside and lets Valkyrie pass, there's not going to be any real fight for the win potentially. However, if Badass puts up an honest fight, Badass could not only maybe walk out of here at the 2nd, he might be able to deny Valkyrie a shot at this win. Imagine the scenes if Mr. Sunshine, who for all intents and purposes is a solo small effort, knocking over RZM, one of the big gigantic guns, one of the guaranteed winners in the Forza, especially in the Tourer community, but just in the Forza community overall. Imagine if that could happen. And it's going to all come down to how well and how long Mexican Badass can keep Valkyrie behind, because we still have 10 laps before the end of this race. Scored Buffalo is 3 seconds out from Valkyrie. He has not really made any significant close on Valkyrie. Valkyrie's just tapped the wall there. But thus far, the instance he's had has not been enough to significantly slow him down. He's going to swap it back over to time intervals for the moment. Fight for 9th on track. Larry B, the G, as he continues to slide down the grid, is going to be under threat now from Ludicrous Speed, as Maybe has already dispatched Larry. So great job on Maybe's part. Ludicrous Speed also has Coco Gamer behind him, but about 4 seconds behind. There is a significant gap right now. So Chevrolet versus Ferrari, again, we're about to see this fight play out. Ludicrous is within half a second of Larry. He's got the draft. He's closing in a straight line right now. Going into the final corner, does he make the move here? He does not. He's putting a lot of pressure. Did Arsenal hit the wall there? No, Arsenal did not hit the wall. Never mind. It looked like Arsenal hit the wall and was stuck. Here's the run. This is for 9th overall. Ludicrous on the inside. Larry on the outside. Chevrolet versus Ferrari. And it looks like it's going to be an easy overtake. Alright, so this is now where things get interesting. RZM Valkyrie has caught Mexican Badass. How long is it going to take to get by the Porsche? Big slide from Badass just ahead. Valkyrie slaps the wall, and also Buffalo has actually closed in a bit on Valkyrie. Oh, Valkyrie deep into the grass! Badass, and that's going to really let Scored Buffalo close in, and that's exactly what Sunshine wanted to hear. That's what Mexican Badass wanted to hear as well. So Valkyrie, now in the position where he actually has to fight and push a bit, he is now starting to choke, and it has brought Scored Buffalo back into the fray. Now this doesn't mean that Sunshine has this race locked up. It still could be Valkyrie or Buffalo's win, but this now brings Scored Buffalo into the fray, and Valkyrie has basically wasted nearly an entire lap, not even being able to properly fight Badass. He was just setting up for it and was not able to make it work. He has lost a big chunk of time. Frustrating thing is that on the long straight going downhill, Valkyrie can briefly see Mr. Sunshine. He can see the leader. He can see the top position that he probably feels should be his. But he needs to avoid making mistakes, and more importantly, he needs to keep Scored Buffalo from fighting with them. If Valkyrie and Buffalo start fighting, that could really open a big can of worms for how this fight for the victory plays out here. At Bathurst, a circuit that is historically known for not being very interesting. The fastest people get out front and just walk without issue. One yellow flag has shaken up the entire event. Uphill they come. Buffalo is within half a second to Valkyrie. Valkyrie is not even that close to Badass. Now we see the gap close. Oh, and Badass has hit the wall. Valkyrie coming around the outside, and Valkyrie is by Badass. Not only is he by Badass, Badass is in a position where he's going to deny Buffalo the chance to capitalize. And now Valkyrie, who's only 3 seconds out from Mr. Sunshine, trying to make something happen. I'm going to be so disappointed if Valkyrie just catches Sunshine and walks him without issue. I really want to see a proper fight going on here. Did someone just lag out? If someone lagged out, we can't see it from our end. Buffalo's already dispatched of Mexican Badass as well, and Buffalo runs half a second behind Valkyrie. Yeah, Badass has already fallen to fourth. So Valkyrie, you can see the driver ahead. He needs to fight. When they come to the line, it's going to be 7 laps to go when they get to the line. Valkyrie, as long as he keeps closing by a rate of about half a second a lap, he will catch Sunshine. How long is it going to take to pass him? That will be the real question. Gap's at 2.1 seconds at the moment. Two seconds. Buffalo should be close enough that he can get a toe from Valkyrie in a straight line. It also seems like Valkyrie has a good enough gearing in a straight line that he actually can close on Sunshine in the straights as well as the corners. So there is no single portion of the track, it seems, that Sunshine will have a significant advantage over Valkyrie. It looks like he's kind of disadvantaged against him everywhere. Oh, as I say that, though, Valkyrie slaps the wall just a bit. He's still closing despite hitting the wall. Gap's already down to 1 second. We've seen Valkyrie make a few mistakes. That's what's scored Buffalo up into the fray. Now the gap between the top three, everyone within 2 seconds of each other. They can all see each other right now. Right on board with scored Buffalo. Valkyrie has caught Sunshine. And Buffalo is right behind. So all three of these drivers should all be benefiting from each other's drafts in a straight line. Now we've seen Sunshine have a really good time defending in the chicane at the bottom of the hill here. Side by side. Sunshine denying him the position. Here comes the move for 3 wide. They're having 3 wide for a lead as they come down to the final corner. And it looks like Valkyrie has the position, but Buffalo's fighting him. They're side by side. They're was nothing from Sunshine. Sunshine can't even remotely put up any sort of defense against the two of them. That's the problem with RZM drivers as we now come onto the front straightaway now. Uphill. Buffalo trying to stay in Valkyrie's draft. Valkyrie does not have to push forward. He just needs to defend behind now. Buffalo seems to be a little bit nimbler here, coming up the hill. Valkyrie, I think, has the advantage in a straight line. Sideways is Valkyrie as he throws his car down into the S's. Buffalo putting pressure on. Buffalo led the most laps thus far today. He'd love to lead the final one, but he needs to dispatch the Bentley ahead. Draft should work out in the BMW's favor as they run downhill here. Bit of a hiccup from Buffalo under braking there in the chicane. Five laps to go here at Bathurst around the mountain. Coming back to the straight once more now. There is some lap traffic ahead that this duo will have to worry about by the rate that they are circling the track. That could have an impact on how this fight for the win goes. Gap seems to have opened up now to about 6/10, but as they come back up through the mountain, Buffalo should close, and that is Boiled Bird ahead. And Valkyrie is going to catch Boiled Bird at a very inopportune point on the circuit. Boy, did Valkyrie get spooked by Boiled Bird. Oh, wow, and that's a big lockup, and he's going to cut the circuit again. That's the second time we've seen Valkyrie cut the circuit when trying to deal with lap traffic. We've seen it happen twice now. Now, he's not been doing it by himself. I'm not trying to say that Valkyrie is going out there every lap cutting the circuit. He is absolutely not doing that. Valkyrie is running very fine. It's just when he's trying to overtake traffic, he seems to cut the circuit on the run downhill. Buffalo runs right behind Valkyrie right now. I do not believe, though, Buffalo has any chance to get around the RZM driver. BMW runs right behind Bentley as they come down into the bottom of the hill and through the chicane. Valkyrie having no problem putting the power down. Buffalo not letting him get away. The gap is at about 3, maybe 4/10 of a second as they dive into the final corner. It will be 4 laps to go at the line here at Bathurst. Valkyrie, the car slides just a little bit going to the final corner. Nose to tail. Oh, I was wrong. That is not a Bentley. That is a BMW from Valkyrie. I apologize, Valkyrie. I have misidentified your car this entire race. Coming out of turn 1 and now back on up the hill. Valkyrie had a good run out this time. And while Buffalo is close enough to get a draft, Valkyrie is able to pull on Buffalo in a straight line. And Valkyrie, who really wasn't even in a position to fight for the victory for the first half of this race, just needs to hold on for 4 more laps to steal a victory here at Bathurst. Up to turn 3. This is one of the most difficult corners on the circuit. We've seen almost everybody go and slap the outside wall through here. But no such issue for our leaders this time by. Valkyrie continues to keep Buffalo behind, but the gap is staying at about 5/10. As I say, Buffalo hits the wall there in turn 7. Gap now starts opening back up in Valkyrie's favor. Oh, he hits the wall again. That may have decided the race win. Now the gap opens up to 8/10. Already closing back down in the downhill section, though. Buffalo immediately cuts it back down to about half a second as they come to the bottom of the downhill S's. Now onto the straight again. But again, Valkyrie's BMW has a way better top end than what Scored Buffalo's does. Not by a massive amount, but it's good enough to keep Buffalo from making a move into the corner. Unless draft really works out in Buffalo's favor, where Valkyrie misses the braking zone, this is not likely going to be an overtaking opportunity for Buffalo. As I say that, he looks to the inside. He's not going to go for it, but Valkyrie had to end up lunging on the brakes at the bottom of the hill. They come down to the final corner once more. It will be 3 laps to go at the line this time. The gap is at 0.4 of a second. Again, Valkyrie trying to have a really... Oh, he slides! Valkyrie slides out of the final corner. He got a good launch compared to Buffalo, but Valkyrie is sliding. So there is a little bit of an issue for both of these BMWs at the front. They both seem to be having a little bit of trouble with sliding around here. Buffalo really sideways out of turn 1, but he's within 1/3 of a second. He is now within 1/4 of a second of Valkyrie as they run uphill. Is Buffalo going to make the move to the inside? These GT cars are so big, all Valkyrie has to do is just move aside, and the inside line will be denied. Buffalo won't even try to make a move into turn 2, though. He'll just stay behind Valkyrie for now. This duo has a 7.8 second lead over Mr. Sunshine. They can afford to bump and grind on each other a bit if necessary, because Sunshine is not close enough to capitalize. Oh my goodness, he is right there. He is right on him. He is pushing him through the S's. He pushes him through 5. He pushes him through 6. They're coming up to the top of the hill. Valkyrie still has a position over Buffalo. It goes out just to about 1/3 of a second. But it does seem like Buffalo has opened up the tanks just a little bit. He has found just that extra little bit, and he is really putting Valkyrie under pressure. Valkyrie hits the wall just before they start going downhill. Back through the downhill S's, the gap is at 0.3 of a second, and you can see Valkyrie hits the wall. It's down to 1/10 as they come down. Buffalo tries to lunge. He can't make the move, but Valkyrie is sideways all over the track. Right now, Valkyrie's biggest defense is just the fact that he is so sideways through the corners that there's no line for Buffalo to get side by side with him at. And then when you come onto the straight line, Valkyrie is just fast enough. He's able to prevent Buffalo from doing anything coming into the corner. Through the kink and now into the heavy braking at the end of the back straightaway. Buffalo runs right behind Valkyrie. Valkyrie runs a little wide. Buffalo taps the inside grass. Neither of them had the ideal line that they need. The gap's gone back to 0.3. It will be 2 laps to go at the line coming into the final corner. Valkyrie stays just ahead of Buffalo once more. It does not seem like there's any way that Buffalo will be able to win this race. He needs Valkyrie to make a mistake. Otherwise, there's just no way past. These GT cars are too bloody big, too bloody massive for the narrow-ass circuit here on the mountain. They're coming uphill once more. It is a 0.3 second gap. Buffalo continues to run right behind Valkyrie. Their lead over Mr. Sunshine, 3rd position, is 9.1 seconds. So Valkyrie and Buffalo are absolutely in a zone of their own right now. They have all the track in the world. There is no one ahead that they're likely to hit before this race is over. The next closest driver is 9.5 seconds out. This is just between these two. They can do whatever they need to make this stick. Valkyrie may have hit the wall just a bit on the run uphill, but Buffalo is not able to capitalize. It is 4:10 as they're coming up to the very top of the hill here. Buffalo slides the rear tires just a bit, but he seems to gain a little bit of time. He's now cut it back down to 0.3. Down into the S's again. For Buffalo, he needs Valkyrie to make a mistake. There's no other way you can get by here. The driver, Buffalo hits the wall. Buffalo ends up being the one who makes a mistake. In the downhill S's, the gap opens back up to 0.4. Now under braking, he closes it back down to 0.3. And now opens back up to 0.4. Valkyrie is just too fast in a straight line. And the only overtaking opportunities around Bathurst is on the end of the straights in turn 1, turn 2, and then the last 3 corners as well. There's no other area you can make a nice smooth overtake here. We saw earlier when Arsenal was fighting with Buffalo, they tried making a move in the mountains and it ended up just causing Arsenal to wreck. And because of that, Valkyrie can outrun Buffalo into every single corner. All that matters is just that Valkyrie doesn't miss any corners. White flag in the air as they come out of the final turn. One more lap to go around the mountain. Buffalo has his front bumper right on Valkyrie's rear as they cross the line. Out of turn 1, this is the last run uphill. They made contact, they're both sideways, and Valkyrie's lost it. Valkyrie lost it to Buffalo. They went sideways, and they made contact coming out of the acceleration, and Valkyrie has lost the position of Buffalo. Buffalo takes the lead on the first corner of the last lap, and the gap is now opened up to 1.1 seconds, and Buffalo has stolen the lead from Valkyrie here at Bathurst. Very, very unexpected circumstances here. And now Valkyrie sees the gap already opening up because Buffalo's way faster. The gap's already back up to 1.2 seconds. As long as Buffalo now doesn't make a mistake, Buffalo is going to win here. But this is probably going to be one of the most difficult victories he'll ever have to fight after starting second, losing a bunch of positions on lap 1. Oh, and Valkyrie's hit the wall again coming uphill. He still has 10 seconds over Sunshine. He should still be good for second. But don't throw it away, Valkyrie. You still have a podium to bring home. But Buffalo, he had an instant on lap 1, lost a bunch of positions on lap 1, had to fight back, took the lead back, a yellow flag came and dropped him to the middle of the field. He had to fight with multiple drivers just to get back into the position. He went for a 3-wide overtake on Mr. Sunshine, and Valkyrie was only able to complete half of it, but he has been doing nothing but bashing his head against the wall. He has driven this race perfectly on his end, or near perfectly, but it kind of didn't matter. It seemed like all the cars were stacked against him until the last lap. And now, as we see our top 2 drivers running downhill, the gap has opened up to 1.6 seconds, has scored Buffalo. There is nothing in his way. All he has to do is just nail these last 3 braking zones, and he will be your winner of your first race of the IESC GT season here. Now, here's just one corner left, the final 90-degree left-hander. The same kind of corner that caused Buffalo to lose so many positions on the first lap is going to be the one that'll greet him with the checkered flag coming to the line. In the BMW will be scored Buffalo for his first win in the season opener of the IESC GT season. Valkyrie will come home second. And for Mr. Sunshine, who had been fighting for only a 7th or 8th position for so much of the race, that pit strat is going to bring him home with a 3rd place finish. 4th place, it looks like it's going to go to TNR Horizon, who is just behind. Arsenal is in 5th, and Arsenal will recover from his accident to finish in 5th position. Mexican Badass will come home 6th. RZX U5 AMP will be 7th, and my personal driver of the day will be Maybe Racing. He was fighting for maybe a 9th or 10th position so much of the day, and despite being massively disadvantaged from the pit stops, he will end up in 8th at the end of this race. Lucas Speed will come home in 9th. Coco Gamer, who is a very small, very unlikely to start part-time driver, will come home 10th. Larry B will be 11th. SRD Shredder will come home in the 12th position here. Prius Killer will be 12th, SRD Shredder will be 13th, NFL Racer will be 14th, Tactical Fallout will be 15th, GRM Jaguar will be 16th, and then the lap drivers will be Flag 4199 and Boiled Bird in 17th and 18th. The drivers that do not finish this race will be, will be CK the Flying Scott, who will be credited with 19th position. In 20th position, I'm waiting for the ticker to go by so I can properly say who it is going to be that will be given 20th position. 19th will be CK the Flying Scott, 20th will be TMS Bum Drop, and 21st position will be TBF Matter. And that will round out the field here for a very incredible day. It is incredible what we saw go down here at Bathurst. A circuit that normally doesn't provide a whole lot of crazy racing really brought us down to the final lap here for this victory. And it wasn't only a final lap thing, that was a boil that kind of turned up and then turned down to a simmer, and then it turned back up and then it turned back down to a simmer. And we're going to go ahead and try to invite our race winners into the party here. I cannot believe the kind of racing we have seen come off here. Incredible stuff. I'm not going to be able to interview the entire field simply because so many drivers were involved in today's race. So I'm only going to interview a select section of the field today. Excuse me. Whew. Thank you. Hello, Arsenal. Give me just a minute. I'm trying to get some of our other top finishers into the party here. Excuse me. Oh, I feel like I just about tore my vocal cords out because that was so incredible what we saw going down there.
Yeah. You talking about at the end?
I mean, really the entire race, but especially what happened at the end there. Okay, for starters, I want to talk with our third place finisher, Mr. Sunshine. Sunshine, please go ahead, include your audio. You come home in a podium position, third, after spending most of the day just barely kind of holding on to a top 10 spot. But pit strategy worked out in your favor. Include your audio, Sunshine. What do you have to say about your run today?
Um, yeah, I finished about 7 places higher than I thought I would, so I'll take that. No, ironically, I pit so I could leave the Discord chat because it was being very annoying, and the fact that that was such a beneficial move is actually kind of funny. But I mean, once Valkyrie came out of the pits and he was still in fourth, I knew that if he got past Eddie in second, that it was probably gonna be over because I'm just a sitting duck on the straight, and there's no way in hell I make up that pace on the top of the mountain. So at that point, it was just a countdown to see how many places I could not lose, and managed to hang on for third at the end. So I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, what about that three-way overtake that they did, splitting you on both sides on the run to the final corner?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna defend that move because, like I said, if I defend there, then that just brings both of them up, and then I just get passed on the front straight. So I was like, I'll just see if somebody sends it on the inside. I think it was a little late because I didn't expect to go as wide as I got pushed, and then next thing I know, I had like way too many proximity arrows on my screen, so I just tried to keep it in the middle.
All right, well, irregardless, mate, that was a irregardless, one way or another, that was a fantastic performance you put out there, Sunshine. Great job bringing home a podium there. Now I want to go ahead and talk with our second place finisher, Arzium Valkyrie. Valkyrie, go ahead, include your... okay, Valkyrie's still not in this party. I thought I saw him join. 1 second. I'm trying to get... Tried to get Valkyrie into the party for invite here. All right, real quickly, while we wait for Valkyrie to get in, I do want to talk to one other person here. Maybe Racing, please go ahead and include your audio. This doesn't really mean anything. There's not really anything special, but personally, I would say driver of the day performance from you, maybe. You went out there, you were kind of fighting, mid to the rear of the top 10 throughout the race. Pit stops come out, you were massively disadvantaged. The drivers you're directly fighting were way ahead of you due to the way the caution flag and the pit stop came out. You still came out of here with a fantastic finish. Walk us through that race from your perspective.
Yeah, it was a battle most of the race. Had good racing throughout it. Started off, fell back a little bit on the first couple laps, but started to claw back a little bit. Was racing with the Bentleys, had a good race with them. Unfortunately, pitch strategy kind of got in my way with the safety car, but I threw caution out the window, stayed out a couple laps, tried to see if I could get some clean air, gain a little bit from that, and I feel like I got out pretty well with that, actually, and was able to bring it home. Was I 8th or 7th? Somewhere there. So, yeah.
It looks like it's 8th. It might be 9th, but I'm thinking it's going to be 8th. So
sounds good. Yeah. Pretty happy with that otherwise though, and yeah. It's a good race.
All right, heads up, just because all these other people are joining the party, I'm not going to be able to invite everyone else because I have another event that I have to run shortly here. But for the people I invited in, I will still get to them. Really quickly, I want to go ahead and talk with TNR Horizon. Horizon, go ahead and include your audio. Interesting race for you today. Doesn't matter how you look at it. You were fast enough to be in a zone of your own. You were not fast enough to directly contend for the win. What do you have to say about your race today, Horizon?
Yeah, it didn't really go to plan, but I finished where I started because of incidents with other drivers and stuff like that. So the pits kind of messed everybody up. Pretty much everybody that wasn't in the top 15 got benefited from it, but everybody else had already pit. So that kind of messed my race up. I could have got a podium. I was about half a second behind Sunshine as we came to the final line after going into the pits under yellow. But other than that, pretty typical day. Finished 4th, started 4th.
All right, well, mate, finished 4th, starting 4th. You're one of the drivers that we are considering for a possible championship run. Do you think this is the start of a title run for you, or do you think the gaps are just going to be too big going forward?
It would depend because the season is so long. There's drivers in here like Buffalo, Valkyrie, and Arsenal that I'm just not able to keep pace with consistently. There might be like a race or two where I might be closer to one of them than I usually am, but it'll depend on attendance and if they can show up for the full season, I'd say. Um, it really just comes down to that. It could be the same thing for me. I might, miss a few races and that might just dash whatever I have. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I don't want to make any promises yet, but it was a decent start day, I'd say, for where I expected.
All right, well, decent start and a decent end to the day. You did a great job keeping your nose clean. All right, two more drivers I want to talk to, and then we'll shutter the broadcast. Coca Gamer, go ahead, include your audio. Coca, you run an extremely limited part-time schedule on Forza. I think I've only seen you in about 2 GT races in the last year before today, only about 2 or 3 IndyCar races, 2 or 3 NASCAR races. You hardly ever touch this game. You showed up, and you were by far the strongest driver of everyone in the Bentleys today. Brought that thing home into a 10th place finish. Walk us through that performance from your perspective, because from me, knowing how rarely you touch this game, that was incredible.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, I will say, and I like no self-plug here, but the real life racing completely changed me with this game because I was a lot more patient than I probably usually was. I came back because, damn, bro, this is a good series. I mean, I've always had fun with this GT racing, close racing, stuff like that. Bentley, to be honest with you, wasn't that strong. I mean, I was having some issues up in the mountain section, of course, but pit stops really screwed us up, and I think it did for a lot of people because I was there for 7th, 6th place, kind of contending as much as I could. Yeah, it's a fun time, but like I said, I mean, I feel like if this was real life, things would have gone differently, but Forza is Forza. I'm not gonna kind of differentiate that too much. I think we all know where we stand on that. But hey, I mean, good day today, and yeah, I might be back if I have enough time to continue fighting. So.
All right, great performance out there. Real quick, Arsenal, did I already talk to you and interview you? Okay, I'll get to Arsenal. I'll get to you, Arsenal, and now I'll get to Buffalo, and Buffalo will be the last one. I lied. Sorry. Arsenal, go ahead, include your audio. Interesting day for you because you started the race right near the front. You were right fighting with Buffalo for a good chunk of the day, but incidents have kind of forced you to fall down the order. Walk us through the race from your perspective, mate.
Yeah, it's kind of what I expected to happen. Just with Bathurst being Bathurst. Like one small mistake, he would just kind of just slow you down. You can spin out quite easily, as I did twice there. Finishing 5th, that is, to be honest, better than what I expected. And also starting pole, I didn't expect that, because I was on a terrible lap as well. Somehow I came first. But yeah. Also the build as well, it's just kind of hard to be confident and throw the car around the track like I would expect to be able to. Just lost patience and confidence with it. The 5th is, I guess, alright for everything to happen.
Across the Arsenal, do you have anything you want to say about the incident between you and Buffalo on the run up the mountain in the last 10 laps, where the two of you got into it and you went spinning into the inside wall?
That wasn't really anyone's fault, if anything, more leaning towards me. So yeah, none more on that.
Alright, well, either way, I think despite everything that happened, gaining a pole and coming home 5th in a car you didn't feel comfortable with, I have to agree with you. That's a very impressive run. Do you think you can make a championship bid off of your performance today?
We can all see about that. But yeah, I mean, if it's not Bathurst, I guess it should be a bit more predictable what to happen. But the safety cars kind of change a lot, as they did there.
Alright, well, irregardless, mate, great job, great performance out there today. And now, the last person we want to talk to is the most important person. We want to go ahead and talk to Score Buffalo. Buffalo, please go ahead, include your audio. A fantastic drive out there today. One second, let me check something here. Yeah, no, my party audio is on. Buffalo, go ahead, include your audio, and tell us about that incredible day from your perspective, mate.
So from the start, get this, Arsenal being in the Aston, I was not able to get by for a long time because of the pace of the Aston in the straights. So that was kind of my first worry. And then, Bathurst being Bathurst, you touch a wall, and it hurts a lot. And so whenever that happened, and I was in first, I thought if the race ran caution free, I would just turn laps. And then the late race caution actually made me a lot more worried. And the fact that Arsenal also had to pit with me as well meant I was in the same situation again, and with Valkyrie in front, and he was pulling away, I was increasingly getting worried. And then the incident happened. And then after that, I was just trying to turn qualifying laps to see if I could catch up, if any stretch of the imagination. And I think it came down to the last lap actually, with me and Valkyrie, and something happened to him in turn one, and he went wide, and I tried to take that as my opportunity, and it worked out.
Boy,
all
did
I
it
had
work
to
out.
do was just drive home.
Yeah, you say you were going qualifying laps. I'm looking at the timesheet here. No one else was in your zone. Your fastest lap today, 2 minutes flat, 0.464. The next closest people would be RZ and Valkyrie at the 201.014. So your fastest lap in race was more than half a second faster than Valkyrie in the end.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. I didn't think I'd be able to go that fast, but I mean, it happened, so I'm happy.
All right, so now the real question, Buffalo. Great job on the win in the season opener. Way back in the very first season of the IESC GT series, Coca Gamer won the first race in what was a 20-race season and held up a championship fight until the very end where he finally scummed. Do you think in a slightly shorter season you can use this win to launch into a championship run?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it just depends on attendance though, and whether I'm actually don't have a skill issue at any of these other tracks. But you never know. You just have to wait and see. Nothing's really set in stone.
Fair enough, and I can appreciate the blunt honesty. Well, with that in mind, that will wrap up our broadcast here. I'd love to have been able to do more interviews, but I have other things I have to attend shortly after this. I do want to say to everyone who participated, thank you. We had 21 drivers on track today. That is an IESC GT record! A new record for the series, and it's something we're very happy to see. Next week is an off week for the IESC GT series, but in 2 weeks from now, we'll get racing on our second track of the schedule. Until that time, though, I've been your host, Insanely Lear 13. If you're interested in partaking and running in the series, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to Ludicrous Speed or SRD Shredder on Xbox, and we'll try and get you hooked up. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us, and goodbye.